Picture this. You're traveling through a foreign country, exhausted, a bit disoriented, and in desperate need of cash. You find the nearest ATM, insert your card, hear that familiar electronic clicking, and within seconds you're holding crisp bills in your hand. It feels so normal, so modern, so utterly simple that you barely even think about it. But imagine for a second that this convenience, this ability to send your money across the world and withdraw it somewhere else, wasn't created in the 20th century. Imagine if I told you that a system almost identical to this existed nearly 900 years ago. And even more surprising, the people who created that system weren't bankers or merchants. They were monks who became so wealthy that kings bowed to them, monarchs borrowed from them, and entire nations feared crossing them. These monks, known as the Knights Templar, built the world's first international financial network, a system so far ahead of its time that modern banking still carries their fingerprints. To understand the genius of the Templars, you have to picture the world before digital money. Travel back to the 12th century, long before bank apps, long before credit cards, long before anything that could be called finance as we know it. Money wasn't invisible numbers on a screen. It was metal, heavy, clunky, and loud. Silver coins didn't quietly sit in your pocket. They clanged together, echoing with every step you took, broadcasting to bandits exactly where you were. Now imagine you're a lonely medieval traveler on a dusty road to Jerusalem. You've walked for weeks, your clothes are stained with sweat, your feet ache in every direction, and you're carrying every coin you own tied to your belt. The roads ahead are dangerous. Bandits wait behind hillsides. Enemy patrols roam the valleys. Even corrupt toll guards are ready to steal anything they can. You need your money to survive, but carrying it is a risk that could cost you your life. Then, somewhere along the road, you see it, a stone fortress standing tall against the horizon. Its white walls gleam under the sun, and hanging above its gate is a massive red cross, bold and unmistakable. You've reached a fortress of the Knights Templar. You step through the gates, approach a Templar clerk, and place your silver on the table. No one questions you. No one interrogates you. In exchange, they hand you a small parchment, sealed with symbols you don't understand. To anyone else, it's worthless. But to the Templars, that slip of paper is as good as gold. And to you, it's the difference between life and death, because with that parchment you can walk across continents completely empty-handed, and when you arrive at another Templar outpost, that same amount of silver will be waiting for you. What you're holding is essentially a medieval ATM receipt, the first of its kind. Long before modern finance existed, the Knights Templar had created a system that allowed deposits in one city and withdrawals in another, using codes, seals, and a trusted network spread across Europe and the Middle East. It was secure, reliable, and revolutionary. To travel without fear became possible for the first time, and thousands of pilgrims owed their survival to this hidden financial machine running behind stone walls and red crosses. But while these travelers walked in peace, the world around them was shaking. The Crusades were raging, drawing tens of thousands of Europeans into the Holy Land. Christian warriors, known as Crusaders, marched toward Jerusalem with the dream of reclaiming the city where Jesus once walked. In 1099, after a brutal and bloody siege, they succeeded, and a new Christian kingdom was born in the Middle East. But the region remained unstable, with raids, ambushes, and political chaos around every corner. And in the midst of this chaos, the Knights Templar rose. They began as warrior monks, men who took vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. They owned nothing, wore simple clothes, and lived by the sword. Their purpose was purely religious: protect pilgrims and defend the Holy Land. But the Templars quickly proved themselves to be more than simple warriors. Their bravery on the battlefield earned respect, their discipline earned admiration, and their unwavering loyalty earned trust. Travelers felt safe in their presence. Nobles respected them. Kings admired them. And with trust came donations, land, gold, property. Slowly, without intending to, the Knights Templar transformed from a military order into a financial empire. By the mid-1100s, their system grew more sophisticated. A pilgrim could deposit silver in one Templar fortress in Europe and withdraw it weeks later in Jerusalem. Their network spanned from Scotland to the Middle East, with every fortress functioning both as a military outpost and a financial branch. Their clerks developed coded languages, encrypted ledgers, and standardized documents. Europe had never seen anything like it. They weren't calling it banking, but that's exactly what it was. Medieval banking at a scale the world had never witnessed. Their letters of credit became the ancestors of checks, bank drafts, and even modern wire transfers. And for the first time in history, ordinary people could travel enormous distances without carrying money, because the Templars carried trust. But the Crusades were expensive, tremendously expensive. Horses, armor, castles, food supplies, siege equipment, all of it cost fortunes, and fortunes vanished quickly. At the Battle of Haram in 1164, only 7 of 67 Templars survived. At La Fourbe in 1244, out of 300 knights, only 33 returned alive. Replacing one knight required weapons, armor, 3 horses, provisions, and training, and replacing dozens or hundreds was financially devastating. Eventually, kings themselves began running out of gold. And when kings run out of gold, they borrow. And the Templars became the institution kings borrowed from. Their reputation was unmatched. They were loyal, disciplined, and incorruptibly honest, at least in reputation. Lords allowed them to collect tolls and taxes across Europe. The Pope granted them exemptions from paying tithes, giving them the medieval equivalent of tax-free status. They could move money across borders, handle royal treasuries, and even negotiate political deals. Suddenly, monks who once lived in poverty were controlling resources greater than those of entire kingdoms. Their financial network was too efficient, too trusted, too powerful, and that made them dangerous. Because standing in the shadows, watching their growing wealth with cold suspicion, was King Philip IV of France. Philip was a desperate king. His wars with England and Flanders had drained his treasury. France was drowning in debt. Meanwhile, the Templars sat at the center of Paris on top of more money than he could ever dream of. They were independent, loyal to the Pope, and completely outside his control. To Philip, they weren't holy warriors anymore. They were an obstacle. And obstacles had to be removed. Philip understood that the Templars couldn't be destroyed by force. They were too well trained, too well armed, too well respected. You couldn't beat them with swords. You had to destroy their reputation. So Philip planned the kind of attack that could only be carried out in total secrecy. He ensured that his candidate, Clement V, became Pope, securing influence over the Church itself. Then, on the morning of October 13, 1307, a date that would echo through history, Philip ordered the arrest of every Templar in France. He accused them of heresy, corruption, blasphemy, and every imaginable sin. The charges were fabricated, wild, and strategically shocking. Many kings across Europe ignored his letters demanding they follow suit. But in France, the damage was done. Jacques de Molay, the last Grand Master, was captured. Hundreds of knights were imprisoned, interrogated, and tortured. Some confessed just to stop the suffering. Some died in silence. Trials dragged on for years. The Templars, once Europe's most trusted protectors, became prisoners, their reputations shattered by a king who owed them money he could never repay. And when the dust settled, one question remained: what would happen to the enormous wealth they had accumulated? In theory, Pope Clement V answered that question in 1312 with a papal decree dissolving the order and transferring its assets to the Knights Hospitaller. But in practice, Philip simply ignored the decree. He kept most of the Templar wealth for himself. His heirs held onto their lands for centuries. Across Europe, kings, dukes, and nobles quietly seized whatever they could, hiding their actions behind a veil of legality. The Templars were gone, but their infrastructure, their financial system, refused to die. The fall of the Templars marked a turning point in European history. Feudalism began to weaken. Power slowly shifted from land-based loyalty to money-based authority. Monarchs realized they could centralize wealth, control finance, and dominate society without relying on old feudal structures. And into this new world stepped families like the Medicis. In Florence, the Medici family built a banking empire that echoed the Templar system. A central headquarters in Florence connected to branches across Europe, Rome, Venice, London, Paris, Bruges, and more. They managed accounts, transferred funds, invested in trade, and used trust as their most valuable currency. Their double-entry bookkeeping brought sophistication to finance. Their political influence rivaled monarchs. And although they may not have admitted it, the blueprint they used was unmistakably similar to the financial model the Templars had pioneered. Centuries later, the Rothschild family expanded the branch-based model even further, establishing banks across Europe that communicated through encrypted letters and private couriers. They financed wars, stabilized governments, and shaped the modern financial world, again using systems that resembled Templar innovations in trust-based banking. Fast forward to the 20th century, and Switzerland made secrecy a national policy. Their banking laws, built on confidentiality and independence from foreign powers, reflected the same ideas the Templars had once used: privacy, trust, neutrality. Modern finance, from offshore accounts to central banks, operates on principles the Templars laid down in the medieval era. So even though the Knights Templar haven't existed for more than 700 years, their influence hides in every bank you walk into. The ATM you use, it descends from their letters of credit. The international banking branches around the world, that's the Templar outpost system, perfected and modernized. The double-entry accounting that keeps track of global finances? It evolved from the meticulous ledgers their scribes once wrote by candlelight. Their banking principles spread, evolved, and became the backbone of global finance. But beyond finance, the Templars also left a quieter legacy. They built hospitals, cared for the wounded, helped the poor, and practiced a form of responsibility we would today call corporate social responsibility. They were not perfect. They faced accusations of corruption and political manipulation, but their impact on how institutions hold power cannot be denied. This isn't just a story about medieval knights. It's a story about the control of capital, the nature of trust, and the silent machinery behind global power. The men who shaped that system weren't kings or emperors. They were monks in armor, armed with swords and ledgers, who engineered a financial structure so effective that even when they fell, the system survived. Kings destroyed the Knights Templar, but they couldn't destroy what the Templars built. Their financial machine outlived them, absorbed by monarchs, adopted by merchant bankers, and eventually transformed into the modern banking world. So the next time you walk up to an ATM, send money abroad, or trust your bank to hold your savings, you're using a system that began nearly 1,000 years ago in a Templar fortress marked with a red cross. And if you've made it all the way to the end of this story, leave a sword emoji in the comments. I want to see how many of you journeyed through this entire tale. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider it. I'm pushing hard for 100,000, and every bit of support helps. Also, if you want to dive deeper into the world of medieval finance, be sure to check out my video on the Medici family. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.